In this video, we'll be creating the following object using FreeCAD version 0.21.2. In the past videos, we've primarily used the pad tool to turn our 2D sketches into 3D objects. In this video, we'll be using the Revolution tool as well as the Polar Pattern tool to achieve this end result. So to begin, I'll go ahead and create a new project, make sure I'm in the PartDesign workbench, create a new body, and a new sketch. And since we're using the Revolution tool for this project, I'm going to start my sketch on the YZ plane. And the reason I started on the YZ plane is because with the Revolution tool, we want to sketch out just a portion of our side profile of this object. So don't worry if that doesn't make sense just yet. Once you see the tool in action, I think it'll click. So to begin, I'll go ahead and use the Polyline tool to sketch out the profile of this object. And I don't have a technical drawing that I'm referencing for this one. These are just some dimensions that I found worked well for me. This object is mostly just vertical and horizontal lines here. Oops, I didn't quite connect these 2 points, so let me grab these and use the coincident constraint. Okay, and I'll use the vertical line constraint to correct this line. And I'll go ahead and just use my horizontal distance constraint to set these. So this line will be 15. That one will be 15 also. These bottom lines are going to match up. It's a fairly symmetrical object here. This line is also going to be 15. Okay, and I probably don't need that line because it's already constrained there. So I'll get out of the horizontal distance constraint and use the vertical distance constraint. This line's going to be 40 millimeters. Oops, let me reposition that. These lines will be 10, and these ones will be 10 also, and 10. Okay, and this is probably going to be that's redundant, so I don't need to define that one. Okay, and I also want this object to be symmetrical to our X and Y axes here. So I'll take the origin point and this bottom left point, and I'll give it a vertical distance constraint. This is going to be 25 millimeters, or in other words, half of our total height. So 40 plus 10, that's 50. Divide that by 2, we got 25. That'll be our distance there. And I want this symmetrical on the y-axis, also this green one. So I'll take that point and our origin point, give it a horizontal distance constraint. Our total width of this line here is 15 millimeters. So I could just do 7.5. Or I can do 15 divided by 2, hit OK. That gives us a 7.5 millimeter constraint. All right, I'll close out of here. Reposition. So now we'll go ahead and use the Revolve tool. And you might see this when you first click the tool. Don't worry if that's the case. Under Axis, you can select this dropdown, and we can choose Base Y-axis, because this is the axis we want to revolve this sketch around. So once I do that, you'll see that two-dimensional sketch that we drew out has fully revolved and turned into this three-dimensional object. If you reduce the angle, you can kind of get an idea of what's actually happening here. So you can see that's basically our 2D sketch there, and it is revolving until we set it to 360. You could also set this to, say you did 180, or let's just set it back to 10. If you check the symmetric to plane, just like with the pad tool, we're now kind of extruding our object symmetrically on both planes. So we'll go ahead and set that to 360. We don't actually need this checked. Doesn't make a difference in our case right now, but set it to 360. We'll hit OK. All right, and so now to create the holes that I had in the object, we'll create a new sketch. And this time I'll create it on the XZ plane because we're no longer going to be using that Revolution tool. And I'm going to go ahead and sketch in these circles to be extruded, or excuse me, to be pocketed. Now you'll see I can click and drag, and you can see a portion of my sketch is inside of our existing object, so I can't really see what I'm working with here. So to alleviate that issue, I can use this View Section tool. And this will cause FreeCAD to hide any objects that are in front of our sketch. So if I come back here, you can see it hides the back face. And this allows us to just have some more visibility into the sketch as we're drawing it. So I'll go ahead and take the center point of the circle that I created, and I'll select this, this axis here. And I will use the constraint point onto object to align it to this axis. Let's go and define a diameter here. I'll just set it to, let's try 15. That's kind of small. We'll set it to, oops, I'll double click on that. Let's do 20 millimeters. Okay, and as far as the distance goes, I'll select the center point of the circle, select our origin point, and use a vertical distance constraint. I'll go and just set that to, well, let's do 50 millimeters. Click close. And now the sketch we just created is currently inside of this object, but I'll use the pocket tool. And I will check this symmetric to plane box. And I'll change the type from dimension to through all. So now it's fully pocketed through here. And this circle is actually coming in a little bit close to the inside of our little ring here. So I'm going to modify this sketch. Come in here, and let's just give that, let's do 55. Close. Now it's been adjusted. That looks better. And actually, I'm going to modify that one more time. 20 is kind of large. Let's do 15. Okay, so now we'll use the Polar Pattern tool to replicate this pocket that we created around this front face. So I can select the pocket from the model tree and then click on the Polar Pattern tool. And by default, you can see that our axis is set to the normal sketch axis, which in this case works just fine, but we could also set this to our base Y axis. And you can also see that we have an angle of 360 degrees and 2 occurrences. Now, if we increase this occurrences field, you'll see that we are getting additional pockets created. And if we modify this angle field, you can see that it adjusts the angle at which this pocket is applied to our face. So if we set 180 degrees, you can see it's limited to just half of our object here. But if we set it to 360, this pattern is applied in a full 360 degree range. Okay, we can close out of there. And now we can apply some chamfers to this object just to kind of pretty it up, add some finishing details. So if I select this front face, I can just click the chamfer tool, and any line that is touching this face will have a chamfer applied to it. So in this case, that's all we really need there. I can give it a 2 millimeter chamfer. And if I select, or if I click the select button over on chamfer properties, it'll put me in this selection mode, and I can select additional faces on which to apply this chamfer. So I want to get this back face too, because as of now, when I preview it, you can see the front face is affected, but not the back. So I will select the back face. Now if we toggle preview, you can see both faces are affected. And I'll go ahead and select this internal portion of it as well. Okay, I'll just hit OK there. Okay, well that completes this object. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments if you have any, and thanks for watching.